Good afternoon. Yes, that does seem to be working. Welcome everyone to the meeting of the Wingecarribee Local Planning Panel today, which is the 28th of May 2025, and I declare the meeting open at 2 p.m. Now, first of all, I must acknowledge the Wingecarribee Shire Council acknowledges the Gundagara and Tarawal people as the traditional custodians of the land on which we now meet, and I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and also like to extend respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander persons who are present with us today. Now, my name's Louise Byrne. I'm a lawyer and I'm the chair, in case you hadn't noticed, and I'm going to get the other persons sitting on the panel to introduce themselves and just give a brief summary of what their area of expertise is. So I'll start to my right.
Good afternoon, my name's Annalise Torr. I have qualifications in architecture and planning.
Hello, my name's Linda Kelly. I'm a planner and I have experience in working in various different local councils.
Hi, my name is Julian. I'm the community representative on the LPP and I have an architecture background.
Okay, there's just a few formal matters. Firstly, the meeting is being live streamed via Council's website and the recording will be made available on the website after the meeting. I ask you all to please, if you haven't already done so, to turn off your mobile phones. Now, we will move to, the procedure of the meeting is basically that we hear from any persons who want to speak. I'll go through the agenda, which you all will be familiar with if you've obtained the Council's papers. And we will then, after we've heard from the persons who want to speak, we will then adjourn the meeting and deliberate, and we'll return to the public meeting to announce our determinations, and that will all be live streamed as well. Now, I'm going to now go to the agenda for today, and the first item is item 6.1 concerns DA 24/1216, and that development application is for the subdivision of 3 existing lots into 3 new lots to facilitate the retention of an existing dwelling and the construction of 13 infill seniors or self-care dwellings and 1 single dwelling house at 52 Kangaloon Road, Bowral, and 18 Aitken Road, Bowral. That will be the consolidated lots, and as you're all aware, that's an area of about 12,000 square metres. So I understand I have a list of some people who wish to speak to the development, and I also have some notations here of persons who had originally asked to speak now don't want to speak. So I'll just start with the way this list has been given to me, and please say if you actually don't want to speak, okay? Now, just one other thing. You have 3 minutes only to speak. If you can keep it to that time, that would be helpful, and if I think it's going over, I will cut you short, so just beware of that. Now, is there a nick? The other thing is, when I call your name, come up to the microphone. Can you please state your name and state your address? Okay, so is there a Nick Corbett present? Yes. Hold on a minute. Did you switch yours on? You may need some help there. We're not that brutal.
Well, thank you for the opportunity of being here and to address the panel. I appreciate that. I oppose the development of 13 black box two-storey townhouses with lap pools at 18 Aitken Road. This is a misleading proposal. It is identified as 52 Kangaroon Road, yet 2 of the 3 lots being subdivided are at 18 Aitken Road. We have luxury townhouses seeking approval under the guise of seniors living. Despite being located within the curtilage of the Aitken Road Conservation Zone, the proposal makes no attempt to complement the design or desirable elements of it. The proposal acknowledges the site contains a remnant threatened ecology of Southern Highland shale woodland and tree hollows, but makes no attempt to retain it with 100 trees to be felled. Therefore, it fails to address the requirements of the Biodiversity Conservation Act and the SEP 21 requirement to retain, wherever possible, significant trees, existing patterns and character of gardens and trees. The proponent asks us to ignore the conservation zone it rudely impacts and instead focus our attention to the luxury townhouses on Kangaroon Road, which do not adjoin the site. This is precisely the type of development the planning provisions are designed to stop. And I would ask the panel to focus their attention to the intent and the spirit of these planning provisions, rather than being bogged down by irrelevant detail. The directions of the planning provisions are very specific. The Barrel DCP states that developments within or immediately adjacent to conservation areas reflect the high heritage value and visual setting of the area and contribute to that value. The LEP 2010 5.10 says that we are to conserve the heritage significance of heritage items and heritage conservation areas, including, importantly, associated fabric, settings and views. The State Planning Policy 2021 states that seniors housing should be designed to recognise the desirable elements of the location's current character and should be designed to complement heritage conservation areas and heritage items in the area. The heritage area at the southern end of Aitken Road recognises the interwar garden estates and the significant homes associated with master builder Alf Stevens. Aitken Road has a clear identity and a well-established pattern of development. Large blocks with a single-storey standalone brick and tile property are set within extensive landscaped gardens and bounded by mature trees, typically situated to the west of the property. The heritage item, and indeed the entire street, has a high degree of integrity. There is not a single medium-density development within the Aitken Road Conservation Zone. Aitken Road marks the southern entrance to Bowral and is vital to the sense of place. It's highly evocative of Old Bowral. This development is highly disruptive to the conservation zone. Rather than designing in response to the site, the proponent has attempted to maximise every available planning parameter and utilise every available metre within the planning rules. The bulk of the 13-storey terraces and scale is completely at odds with the conservation area and existing pattern of development. The 2-storey townhouses are 9.5 metres in height. It's completely at odds with the surrounding single-storey houses. The form of the houses, the first storey with painted brick, the upper with dark cladding and the black tin roof, are completely at odds with the single-storey double brick tile roof vernacular of the surrounding conservation area. These developments are located within 2.8 to 3 metres of some boundary fences and inappropriate and insensitive spacing, which will impact with overshadowing properties such as 8, 16, 14, 12, 10A and 10B Aitken Road. In the context of the conservation area, it's really important that you consider the overshadowing not just of the houses, but of the surrounding gardens. In the long term, this development, if allowed to proceed, will diminish the integrity of the conservation zone and will set a clear precedent for future medium density developments within the conservation zone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Corbett. Can you say again what your name and address is, just for the record?
For the record, my name is Nick Corbett. I live at 11 Aitken Road, Bowral. I did have a couple of documents to hand to the panel either now or later.
You can hand those up now, that's fine.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'll now call on Claire Slattery, if Claire is in the room.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Claire Slattery. I live at 11 Aitken Road, Bowral. In the words of Council's assessing officer, the current bulk and scale is reflective of medium density development. Each dwelling is 2-storey with at-grade parking. The landscaping is not generous. The development does not correctly address the social and communal aspects that are expected of new independent living units. This is clearly an unsuitable development that does not complement the heritage conservation areas. Importantly, it is also not compliant with the New South Wales Department of Planning and Environment Design Guide 2023, is to provide quality, affordable and accessible accommodation for senior people within familiar neighbourhoods. To avoid the obvious heritage impacts, the developer seeks to distance itself from the adjacent Aitken Road conservation and instead seeks comparison with recent developments on Kangaloo Road, such as Ellsworth and Ace. The state planning policy allows for seniors housing in low-density residential areas, RE2. However, the intent of this provision, as per the New South Wales Department of Planning and Environment Design Guide 2023, is to provide quality, affordable and accessible accommodation for senior people within familiar neighbourhoods. Unfortunately, some developers have seen this goodwill provision as a loophole to be exploited, as we can clearly see on Kangaloo Road, which is zoned RE2. Recent developments which were approved for seniors living are being marketed to Sydney as luxury townhouses with a price point of over $3 million. In some cases, the marketing campaigns don't mention the word seniors at all. This is not affordable housing and it is out of reach of most locals. It is not compliant with the Department of Planning November 2023 Seniors Living Design Guide. The scale of seniors housing development in Bowral, as already seen on Kangaloo Road, threatens to exceed Bowral's support capacity and is diminishing the existing character of the area. A proliferation of retirement villages has extended its footprint along Kangaloo Road. Development application 24/1216 appears to be an attempt to push the ubiquitous seniors living model up into the potentially lucrative Aitken Road Heritage Precinct. The effect is also contrary to the desired objectives of the CEP 2021, WSC LEP 2010 and Bowral DCP, which all call for a diverse range of housing. Bowral is quickly moving towards a monoculture of seniors living townhouses. The risk is that if the Wingecarribee Shire does allow its distinctive streetscapes, character and heritage to incrementally diminish, it will lose the very cachet which drives its economy. Without its cultural landscapes and historic towns and villages, the region's attraction will be diminished. The idea that building seniors living developments is meeting a social need also must be challenged. Developers of these facilities frequently locate them in highly desirable locations. They then destroy the very environment they are using to market the development. This creates a clear case of intergenerational inequity, as future generations are deprived of experiencing these places of great cultural significance and beauty. The reality is the majority of seniors retiring in Bowral are not local folk seeking to grow old in comfort in the town they have lived their entire lives, but people moving from Sydney and around the state. It is inequitable to destroy our heritage to cater for wealthy retirees from Sydney. There is no moral imperative to approve yet another seniors living development in Bowral, particularly 2-storey townhouses with lap pools in a conservation zone. In fact, a moratorium would be more appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Slattery, for that. I'll now call on Philip Montgomery, if he's in the room.
Thanks very much for the chance to talk to you today about this development that so many people are opposed to. I live at 39 Aitken Road, so I'm a neighbour likely to be impacted. And I'll use my very brief amount of time today to focus on not only the development but Council's treatment of the 24 objections to this development, which I find very inadequate. So if we look at pages 26 and 27 of the agenda papers, Council has summarised those 24 objections into 4 items that they conveniently then dispose of. Now, I don't know whether the panel has read all the objections. I certainly hope that they will, because that summary of the very extensive objections put into this against this development, it does not do it justice. In fact, it's completely dismissive of the real sentiment and the strength of opposition to this development. But just let me address the 4 headings that Council has actually listed there, and I can assure the panel that there are a lot more issues at stake than these 4. Just dealing with heritage to begin with, Council's opening statement is the development, excluding the driveway, is totally outside the HCA. Now, if Council was taking a neutral stance on heritage, they would never open with that statement, because the reality is Council is bound to consider the heritage impact in the vicinity. Whether it's in the HCA or not is irrelevant. It's in the vicinity. Nobody is questioning that. And from what I can see, Council's consideration of the heritage issues has been cursory at best. It's almost as though they want to wipe it off the table as an issue. Council's heritage advisor assures us that there's no problem other than the surface of the driveway. Extraordinary, given the extent of anti-feeling about this from the 24 people that have written in. Most of them have commented on heritage, and they can find a lot more than the surface of the driveway to be concerned about. 2 other things that Council's forgotten in their summation of the heritage issues around this development. Just very recently, Council ran a huge heritage study. It was called the Community Heritage Study, 21 to 23. In that, they have identified a number of new heritage items in Aitken Road, on that western side of Aitken Road, actually. And that study has been endorsed by the planning panel. It's now gone to the New South Wales government, and yet we find no mention of this in Council's response, or at least what I can see there. And I would have thought this would have warranted a mention, because the other thing that Council mentioned in that study, and it was in a way a positive about living in a heritage conservation zone, and to counter a lot of the negative sentiment that people find about it, is that they said one of the good things about living in a HCA is that residents can be certain that out-of-character developments will not be allowed. And that was Council's own words to assure the communities that if you did end up in a HCA, it was all going to be great, because things like this development won't happen. And here we find Council wanting to approve it. Extraordinary, in my mind. Let's look at the second one, overdevelopment. Well, of course the development meets density, bulk and scale standards. It's been designed by architects, there's a lot of money being thrown at it, but that, once again, is irrelevant. This development is not in any old street in Bowral. This is in a HCA. This is unquestionably overdevelopment in the vicinity of a heritage conservation area. And most of the 24 objections found that as well. There's a lot of concern about the fact that this is overdevelopment. Council then goes on to impact on flora and fauna. And we're assured, which is of great relief, that this development, which is going to remove virtually every living thing off the site, that there will be no impact on listed communities. Well, actually, I don't think many of the community expected this to be a national park or a prime koala, habitat. What we're concerned about is not impact on listed communities. We're concerned about the removal of so many trees in a conservation zone that prides itself on being a garden zone. It's extraordinary that council's treatment of this is so cursory. And then we move on to the last one, which is suitability for seniors living. Well, yes, it's probably suitable, but as other speakers have said, aren't we a little overdone with seniors living in that part of town? I mean, what about a couple of families? That wouldn't go astray in our part of the community. And the other factor I would just like to mention, if I could, is that the way this DA has even come to pass is really questionable. We wouldn't be here talking about this if 18 Aitken Road hadn't been granted a subdivision. Now, when that subdivision came up, it presented itself as a block for a single dwelling. What we actually have now is it's actually a Trojan horse for a major development that's not only out of character, but out of scale. And I think if people had have known that at the time, the objection to the subdivision of 18 Aitken Road would have been just as vehement as it is against this one. And I find that as a resident, that was an inauthentic way to do this whole thing. And I think if the panel rewards this DA with approval, it sets a very, very serious precedent for Wingecarribee, and I'd ask you to think about the longer term of this sort of development in our area. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr Montgomery. And I now call on Gordon Sterling and Alexandra Springett. I think you're speaking. I've got here Gordon Sterling. Are you speaking on behalf of somebody? Is that how?
No.
Oh, no, that's someone called Scott Lee. Is Scott Lee here today? Yes, okay, we'll get to you. Sorry, Mr Lee.
Do you want me to go out? I can come back.
No, please stay seated.
Can you understand my accent? That's the first thing.
I certainly did. And
That's cool.
Say your name and address, please. Thank you.
I'm Gordon Stirling and 16 Aitken Road's the address. So first of all, I'd like to say I agree with everybody that's spoken beforehand. I think this is not something we should be doing in the area. I don't agree with the recommendation to approve it. A few points. In the latest submitted plans, Lot 1 of DA is 1,800 square metres. Minimum land size for this part of Aitken Road is 2,000 square metres. Therefore, straight away, it doesn't comply. Proposed access road is not wide enough coming off at Aitken Road with New South Wales Department Plan and Environment, that being a minimum of 5.4 metre width for dual passage, plus a minimum of 900 metres off both boundaries. As part of seniors' requirements, which basically we all know this isn't really going to apply for anyway, as part of senior requirements makes no mention of separate footpath for safe passage to letterboxes and nearest public transport. By my reckoning, we're looking at the 6 metre width available is about 2.5 metres short of where it needs to be. It means a busy road within 3 metres of my house and my children's bedrooms, which surely can't be compliant with having a road that close. Does not also have a 20 metre street frontage, usually required for such a development. The double-storey houses, as people have mentioned, are not in keeping with surrounding homes. They're, in my opinion, ugly and not something I wish to look at. They do not fit the streetscape or neighbourhood outlook. I feel that this DA claims Aitken Road is its named address, then it should comply with the Aitken Road heritage conservation criteria. It does not, nor can it with this proposal, which is why it's addressed Kangaloo Road. As seniors' housing, it must provide safe passage to nearest public transport. To provide a footpath will significantly alter the streetscape and go against the heritage conservation area. Therefore, once more, it can't comply. Lot 2 comprises of 810 and something square metres. If I'm reading the plans correctly, over 7,000 square metres will be taken up with hard surfaces and housing, a low percentage of green space left to absorb water, runoff or provide green space / landscaping. There are way too many dwellings proposed for this limited land. DA claims to be provided affordable housing as per state government objectives. The finished product will not be affordable for locals downsizing and definitely will not meet the title of affordable housing. With a price point of over $2 million, how many seniors are looking for a two-storey townhouse with a lap pool? On a personal level, if this DA is to approve, it will ruin my outlook, hinder my ability to view a night sky due to constant lighting, the constant glow disrupting my sleep and peace, take away the privacy with the road running directly alongside the bedroom side of my house, not 3 metres away, and proposed townhouses overlooking the backyard. Significant increase in noise with traffic service, vehicles, garbage trucks, pill filters, aircon units, and the general hum that close quarter living creates, plus initial construction noise and damage that's caused by that. This will also destroy irreversibly every bit of fauna and vegetation in lots 2 and 3. It will remove all current bird life and animal habitat, and all that wildlife that lives in this land and adjoining backyards, an absolute tragedy. No amount of landscaping can make up for that loss, thus taking away my peace and vital link to nature, another reason we purchased in this locale to begin with. I have concerned about the damage my home will sustain with so much excavation work proposed. Who will fix any cracks or movement issues on my home due to these processes? I don't agree the DA should be allowed at all, but if the LPP deem it suitable, surely the access should not be allowed to run off Aitken Road. Access should be off Kangaloon Road, as there is already access there, and the development should have no access from Aitken Road at all. With land of just over 12,000 square metres, to my mind, there should be no more than 6 dwellings within this area. There's so many points I could bring forward, but with limited time, I can't say them all. So I'll conclude by saying that if the DA is allowed to proceed, my family and I will be adversely affected. All the reasons we purchased 16 Aitken Road will be destroyed. It was and is a reasonable expectation that rear of 18 Aitken Road would someday have a single-storey family home and a minimum of 2,000 square metres, not this over-concentrated medium-density monstrosity, which is proposed in a low-density zoned area. This DA has no regard for the adjoining properties, nor the Aitken Road community. The developers do not have a connection to the area, nor the people it intends to disrupt. And take it from, I implore the LPP, please maintain the low-density zoning and the heritage conservation area and all that entails within this area. Cool, thanks.
Well, thank you, Mr Sterling. I now call on Alexandra Springett.
Good afternoon, I'm Alexandra Springett and I live at 1 Aitken Road.
Might need to say that again because you were standing when you said that.
You'd like me to say it here?
I'd like you to repeat your name and address from a seated position because you were
certainly,
standing.
yes. Alexandra Springett and I live at 1 Aitken Road.
Thank you. Now proceed.
You will have heard plenty of good data from my Aitken Road colleagues speaking today. My input will aim to round it out in a holistic way. This DA is flawed, and when we examine various aspects of it, it all adds up to the same diagnosis, one with profoundly poor prognosis, doomed to ill health in itself and infecting other close-by residences adversely. Medical references aside, I speak to the many egregious and non-compliant aspects of this proposed development, which are not designed for safe and good living and are unsympathetic to the local built and natural environment. The address is listed as 52 Kangaloon Road. However, the proposed access to the Battle Axe Townhouses development is via the laneway between 16 and 18 Aitken Road. What happens in time of emergency? Do fire trucks, ambulances and police vehicles rush mistakenly to the laneway off 52 Kangaloon Road? And forget about online deliveries, too hard. And talking about emergencies, the 6-metre width of the Aitken Road access lane surely requires footpaths to either side of a minimum of 1 metre. However, then that only leaves 4 metres. This is insufficient for safe passage of two-way vehicles, bearing in mind also that standard fire truck width is 2.4 metres. The zoning of low-density R2 sites are increasingly being overcome by developers maintaining their builds are seniors' dwellings, which is the only residential application that permits high-density development in an R2 zone. But is a 6-bedroom house with a large swimming pool and 13 two-storey townhouses, each with their own lap pool, truly intended for the elderly? It seems more likely that they would be for wealthy investors and could become Airbnbs. And if indeed the intent is to attract seniors, at probable property prices for these townhouses being between 2.5 and 3 million, this applies largely to wealthy Sydney retirees. Allow me to point out that developers should not be importing more old people to live here. Our hospital services and medical facilities are stretched as it is. It also does not advocate for a healthy demographic, which is that of a good mix of population age groups. There is also disrespect shown by the DA proponent of applying to build such a development within and also adjacent to a listed conservation area, let alone the disregard for local environment in proposing to fell 98 mature trees and many shrubs. It indicates complete lack of sympathy to local heritage. I'm sad to read in this DA report that council approval is recommended to the development. At the same time, I am heartened by items in your Wingecarribee local planning mission and vision statement. Your mission, to create and nurture a vibrant and diverse community growing and working in harmony with our urban, agricultural and natural environments. 2 items from your vision regarding places that are safe, maintained, accessible, sympathetic to the built and natural environment that supports the need of community. Regarding environment, your vision, a community that values and protects the natural environment, enhancing its health and diversity. I understand you are under state government pressure now, especially, to approve more residential development. And I very much hope that you'll allow the tenets of your vision and your mission to guide you upon this DA. Let's aim for a healthy Southern Highlands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms Montgomery. I'll now call on Mr. Sorry, my apologies. Yes, is Mr. Scott Lee.
Yeah, Scott Lee, my name, Town Planner, Lee Environmental Planning. Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Good afternoon, panel members. I'm speaking on behalf of the owner and applicant this afternoon. I've been the planner working on the project. Unfortunately, they're not available this afternoon, so hence my appearance here. Quite simply, I'd just like to recommend the Council's report to the panel. As you would know from reading that report, it's been some time, a little over a year now since we've lodged the application. Reading through the report, it gives a clear indication of the journey we've been through. The council staff have been very diligent in raising issues along the way, and equally the applicant has been very responsive in how we've dealt with those. Hence, we've got a report now that has recommended approval, covers a range of issues that have been talked about already by previous speakers. The applicant has always taken the view that the development is both permissible and suitable, certainly in support of Council's broader strategic planning aims of residential infill housing that are set out in its local housing strategy. It's consistent with all the state policies that are relevant. It's consistent with council's own local environmental plan and development control plans. A range of expert reports were put forward in support of the application. They all support the application. Where it was necessary to address issues that were raised by council, that has been done, and we're comfortable now with the recommendation for approval. I'm happy to try and answer any questions that the panel might have, but otherwise I would just simply recommend council's report to the panel.
Just sit there for one moment, I'll just ask the panel.
So just clarifying a couple of points that were brought up by the objectors. The access way off Aiken Road, does that actually have a footpath along it?
My recollection is no, it doesn't. That was an issue that was raised with by the council in discussion with the applicant about the nature of that, or the design of the driveway, and the design that's now been supported by the council came about with discussions with council's engineers, both in terms of the geometry of it and the design, and also the surface that was settled on. So that's where that is. There's no footpath as far as I'm aware.
Okay, so the width between the two adjoining properties, number 18 that's being retained, and then number 16, is 6 metres, is it?
That's correct. It's the existing access handle.
Yeah. And then within that, it goes, the carriageway for the vehicles goes from 5.5, and then it sort of reduces down to...
There are passing opportunities, and then there is narrower sections.
And anyone wanting to access the site on foot has to walk along the carriageway.
If they're coming from Aiken Road, yes, that's correct. Yeah.
There's no other access.
That's
because
right.
the other
So
side from Kangaloo.
there's no, as I've said, there's no footpath designed into that driveway at the moment.
Yeah, so there's no dedicated pedestrian access from either Kangaloo or Aiken.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. And someone mentioned that there was a previous subdivision. So has 18 was 18 previously the full width, and then it went up to at the back, and that's been subdivided
It was
previously?
it was a larger property, and it was subdivided. That was, to be honest, I wasn't involved in that, so I'm just speaking from memory. But it was there was a previous development application for subdivision that created the house lot at 18 Aiken Road with the existing dwelling, a compliant lot, and that sits within the conservation area, and the residue, if you like, was consolidated into a parcel at the rear, which is the internal lot, and that's the area that is now occupied by the proposed seniors housing.
So this DA, as I understand, comprises both the 18 Aitken Road and the internal lot, and then the
Kangaloo Road lot.
Kangaloo Road. But there's no work proposed for 18, is there?
It creates a 2,000 square metre lot for the dwelling on 18 Kangaloo Road. There's no work involved with that lot.
But wasn't that created by the previous subdivision?
There's adjustment to the boundary. That's why this application is for 3 lots. It involves all 3 lots. So we end up with a compliant lot on Aitken Road with a dwelling house. And as we've argued, that's consistent with the conservation area. Creates a development lot or seniors development lot internally using the existing access handle. And it creates or utilises the long, narrow portion of the property that has access to Kangaloo as a single dwelling lot.
Okay. So the DA is for that subdivision into those 3 lots, and then each of those lots is essentially developed separately. So the seniors living is just occurring on that internal lot.
Correct.
And your floor space ratio and your landscape area, that's calculated just on that internal.
On that lot.
So it's not like you've got all the lots and you're taking the
Correct.
floor space off one and putting it somewhere else.
They stand on their own 2 feet.
Okay. And in terms of the extent of tree removal and retention. How many trees on that internal lot are being retained?
Sorry, I don't have that figure off the top of my head. Apparently, it's not any, but I don't have the figure in front of me to give you a direct answer to that. That issue was obviously covered by the Arborist report and the flora and fauna assessment from Lodge Environmental. The number of trees removed is a significant number, there's no question. But the council has reviewed those reports and decided that it's a reasonable outcome.
All right, thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Lee.
Thank you.
You can now stand down.
Thank you.
Now, I'm just noting for the record that the two people who wish to speak but then now no longer wish to speak and have handed the panel their written statement. I'll just say that's Megan Hyatt and Ernie Martin. Thank you very much for giving us those papers. Now, the other two items in the agenda, there is no one, as far as I know, unless someone's turned up to speak either on behalf or someone is here to speak.
I submitted the email before on Monday.
Sorry, what's your name? Okay, well, just bear with us 1 minute. Yes, I had finished 6.1. So, item 6.2 of the agenda, there is no one present who wishes to speak on that. Can I?
Mr Diaz.
Oh, sorry, you are that one. I'm very sorry. I was mixing you up with 6.3. My apologies. So I'll call now item 6.2 of the agenda, which is for DA 25/0764, and it's a Torrens title subdivision of one lot into two lots at 1777 Canyon Lee Road, Canyon Lee. Now, we have present Mr Diaz, who I believe is the applicant for that DA, the owner of the land. You can correct me if I'm wrong, and I'll now ask him to speak.
Sorry, can we just pause you there? He's not being recorded. You just got to press the mic button in front of you.
Thank you for that.
Oh yeah, red light.
So you have to start again with your name
Okay.
and address.
Good afternoon, panel. Thanks for allowing me to have this opportunity to speak. My name's John Diaz. I'm one of the owners of 1777 Canyon Lee Road, Canyon Lee. We've been long-term owners of this particular farm since 2015, and we've undertaken prior subdivisions on this farm that has eventuated in the creation of this lot and the adjoining lots. We believe the subdivision provides an appropriate opportunity and setting for an additional rural dwelling opportunities within Canyon Lee area, which is in keeping with the expectations of council and the community for the development of this area in recent times. The applications demonstrated that there is sufficient environmental grounds in terms of the 36-hectare allotment being able to support a dwelling and be of appropriate size to support a number of land uses permissible in the RU1 primary production zone. This is acknowledged by council staff after their careful assessment. We believe this subdivision represents a suitable development that will allow effective use of the existing land without the need to cause degradation of the remnant vegetation, as I've been a custodian of this land for nearly 9 years, and I'm very happy that we don't need to knock any trees down. We welcome the council staff's recommendation for approval of this development, and thank you very much. If
Thank
you have
you,
any
Ms.
questions, I'm happy to answer.
Does anyone have any questions of Mr Diaz? No, you may go, Mr Diaz. Now, the third item in the agenda, item 6.3, I'm just confirming that there isn't anyone here in respect of that matter. We didn't have any notice of that. There could be, I'm just confirming to the meeting. It's for DA 25/1657 and it's construction of a storage shed and driveway. Is there anyone present who wanted to address the panel? Okay, well, I think the silence is no. So we will now, that concludes the public part of the meeting, it being 2:50 p.m. Where, as I said before, we now adjourn and deliberate on the matters that are before us, and then we'll be coming back into the arena, public arena, to announce our decisions. And the minutes of the meeting will be placed on the council website within 2 business days if you didn't want to hang around. So I'll now conclude the meeting till we return. Thank you. Well, the meeting of the Windsor Carribbee Local Planning Panel is resumed, and I'll announce the following findings. For DA 24/12116, which is subdivision of 3 existing lots into 3 new lots to facilitate the retention of an existing dwelling and construction of 13 infill seniors or self-care dwellings and 1 single dwelling house at 52 Kangaloo Road, Bowral, and 18 Aitken Road, Bowral. The panel has refused that DA, and the reasons for refusal will be published in the council's minutes on, I believe, on their website when they're finalised. Item number 2 in today's agenda, which was for DA 25764, which was a Torrens title subdivision of 1 lot into 2 lots at 1777 Canyonlee Road, Canyonlee, is approved, and that will similarly, the reasons for that will be published in the council's minutes. The third item on today's agenda is for DA 25/1675 for construction of storage shed and driveway at Welby Oval, 14 Corrockbilly Street, is approved. The reasons for that, there was a split decision, but the chair held the casting vote, and the reasons for that decision will also be published when the minutes are formally finalised and published on the council's website. So I just ask everyone, thank you for attending, and I particularly ask members of the panel for not cooperating, obviously they cooperated, for assisting today. And that's the closing of the meeting for today. Thank you. Thank you for cooperating.